Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. And thank you so very much for joining me for another episode of Talking Cloud. Now, this is where we talk about cloud, anything, all things cloud and cloud computing, a little bit of a slant towards security because everybody should be slanted a little bit towards security. But there's nothing off the table because I believe cloud is the pervasive architectural model we're going to see over the next several decades, and it's super fun to talk about it. And of course, I get the great benefit of inviting these amazing guests. And today I feel like a celebrity because I'm super excited to talk with our guest today. Now, I went through her LinkedIn profile, and I thought it was really kind of interesting because she said, I'm going to back off of this long history. I'm just going to tell you, I know how to do this stuff. I've been doing it a long time. She kind of truncated it all. And so you've got this block of 15 years, CISO and CIO at the country's largest public power utility. And now she's never done anything differently than global CISO. And today, for now, it's 5 years or almost. My guest has been the Chief Information Security Officer at a very well-known company, MongoDB. And I'm so fortunate to be able to sit and talk with Lena Smart. Man, it's cool. It's great. It's awesome to see you, Lena. Thank you so much for taking time with me today.
No, thank you for having me. This is always fun. This is just a chat with a friend, really, that happens to be recorded. So this is always fun.
That's exactly how I look at it, too. One of the things I was looking through on just the dates, and I can see that we're close. I think I might have a couple on you, but we're close. And so it's fun always to talk with someone like you that has had the same kind of background in terms of tenure in the industry,
Yeah, there's a lot of newer CISOs out there, and God bless them. It's a hard job, and it's being made harder, I think, with our various issues that have been happening in the past few months around SolarWinds, and then before that, Uber.
Yep.
I think a lot of CISOs are being held, and quite rightly so, accountable and responsible for security at their companies. But I do feel that sometimes they're getting thrown under the bus a wee bit. I was reading an article today about the lady who was the CISO at Clorox, and
right.
She departed. And, but for the grace of God goes any of us. You just don't know. You can't know everything that's going on everywhere. You try your best. You put out policies, you have procedures, you have guardrails in place. And you hope that you've created a culture of innovation but openness. And I'm a wee bit worried that with the SEC starting to go after CISOs, and particularly the CISO at SolarWinds, it may stymie open conversation within companies. And that's my fear. That's what we've been working with legal on that to make sure that people know, here's what you should talk about, here's what you should not talk about. Use common sense. But a lot of the times, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners have experienced this, if you're in the midst of a situation, you sometimes just don't have time to think, oh my gosh, how's this going to look in the front page of the New York Post?
Right.
And so it's something else that's added on. We're most of us are very pragmatic in our roles, but I'm worried that maybe some of the newer CISOs who haven't gone through the wars like we have, maybe don't understand that level of responsibility and how it's growing and how it's grown specifically over the past year, 18 months.
No kidding.
I would say to them, make sure you're talking to your legal department. Make sure you understand your responsibilities. If you're an officer of the company like I am, what does that mean?
Right.
And, if you need to push back, if someone is asking you to do something that you think is a bit iffy, which thankfully has never happened to me, but I'm sure that people have been in situations where they're like, oh my gosh, should I be doing this? Should I be signing this off? use your legal counsel and use external representation if you have to. As I say, I'm incredibly lucky to work for a company like MongoDB that really understands this and understands the risks. And my boss, Michael Gordon, who's the CFO and COO, and Andrew Stevens, our head counsel, are just incredibly supportive. And so I know that I'm very lucky in my situation. But, just a word of warning to others out there who maybe haven't looked at this so deeply. Know your own rights within your company and make sure that you're covered.
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
And come on, Lena, it seems, albeit there's some people that boast high percentage of efficacy, at the end of the day, 100% is kind of impossible, really, with when my stack consists of what, the Clorox, for example. Just their security stack, how many vendors? Got to be at least 20, 30, 40. Right? And the number of products. And now you have to dig into each one of those and look at the potential vulnerabilities, any CVEs. That starts to become very, very broad landscape that you got to worry about. And it seems to me impossible to have 100% efficacy against, quote unquote, anything that could happen tomorrow.
Yeah, I was reading an article because, as you know, I very well prepare for these podcasts with you because you always ask the most amazing questions. And I was reading just, how many companies are actually looking at this, taking this seriously, understanding the roles and responsibilities of their CISO. And also I noticed that ransomware and third parties are likely to be the most active attack vectors within the next coming, 12 to 18 months.
Wow.
I'm sure AI will have something to do about that. But I think, if you don't know who's in your network and what they're doing, make that a priority. You have to understand who's in your house. I always use the house analogy because I think my mum thinks I'm some kind of security guard because I'm always talking about security of houses with her. And, I've explained to vendors, if I let you in my house, you're going to take your shoes off and behave yourself. And I need to know where you are at all times. You don't go hiding in the bathroom. I need to know where you are and what you're doing and what that risk is to me. So we did create an internal database of what we believe are all internal apps and all external facing apps. And we have a map of that. But as you say, you can't know everything all the time. And I think anyone who stands up and says we're 100% covered is, being ill-advised as to their status. Let's put it that way.
Back away from the car.
And we work very closely. We've got an amazing procurement team. So we're aware of people buying new software. It goes through my team. We make sure that we review that third party. Mm-hmm. We've done a review of existing third parties. So we feel that we've got a good idea on what we know about. But again, anyone who stands up and says they've got 100% coverage for every piece of software that's in there, their staff, their internal communications, their networking, even people who are working from home, what do they have on their machines? It's like, where do you stop? It never really stops, which is
and what I think about, Lena, is, when you think about cloud and what's going on in cloud computing and how many, just the incredible proliferation of identities that are not humans, right? There's a ton, and I don't know how many people are really managing and addressing and looking at and maintaining and properly deprecating identities within their infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. And that's a very good point. I mean, we've created what we've called our kill switch. So when someone leaves, you hit the magic kill switch, and it goes through all of the access that person had, and then negates it.
Brilliant.
But again, if you don't know something and you don't know someone had access to it, and they're not all going through your two-factor authentication, that's an open hole. And, so we've got all these different checks and balances, and it's time consuming, but, you can buy tools that help you do this, and that's fine. But I wonder if people are just relying too much on this one, as we've quoted it, kill switch. And we don't. We make sure that we go into our different systems and we search for the person's name and we make sure that they're not listed there anymore. And it is time consuming, but at least we know that it's being done. Right. And, hand on heart, we can say to our customers, we are doing the best that we can. Thankfully, we've got low turnover of staff, which is good. People don't seem to leave. But, when people leave, we need to make sure that the access they had, they no longer have. And that is time consuming, but it's super important. Because that people are watching. They're watching LinkedIn. I mean, I was even reading an article about how the hackers are looking at LinkedIn and seeing who just changed jobs. And then they're trying their old credentials with their old employer just to see, do they still have access? And, that's just eye-opening. And I'm sure, I think you mentioned in your email when you sent it to me, some of the things to talk about, the eye-opener of the hackers, telling on one of the companies that they had hacked. I'm like, when is this going to end?
Isn't that remarkable?
Goodness. It's like the burglar phoning up the police and saying, the lock on her front door was dodgy, so we emptied the house, but by the way, it's her fault for having a dodgy front door. It's like, wait, what?
Right. I mean, just remarkable. And the brashness, right? The fact that they are willing to do that, it just shows it's one of the things I have to just mention as you're talking about. I think one of the things that I have a difficult time doing, sorry, I've started 3 sentences right there, is to think like a hacker. You said, look for people changing jobs, go back to the old company using their credentials. That's amazing to me. Not unbelievable, because, that makes sense. I get it. And then immediately I start thinking other, nefarious ways that they can, and the obvious one is the posting that anytime you say, we're going on vacation here this week, or, I can't wait to be gone for 2 months, or any of these things and what's different, I think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, Lena, but here's what I think is different now. And, this whole phenomenon of large language, generative AI, of these tools that now have the ability to just do so many tasks so fast, that now I'm going to have so many different samplings, so many different attempts at just sick AI on finding all the people that posted, hey, I just got a new job, instead of me having, right? I mean, the things are going to get pretty gnarly, it seems, because it seems in the same way you and I think about using AI as, a personal assistant, so do the bad guys, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if I was a bad guy, AI would be my dream resource at the moment.
Yeah.
The data privacy and leakage. There's, the AI models that are being broken the minute they go live. This does, I think, pose significant threats to privacy and just general safety online. This exposed data could be used to, generate convincing personal information for malicious purposes, so they can take Grant Asplund, mimic him on Facebook, get followers. Now we've got a new Grant Asplund, and ask questions, get information. It's all out there.
Want a scarier one, Lena? I just saw this. I think it was today. 23andMe breached.
Yes. Yep.
Now, couple it with what you're talking about right there. But it's not just me, Grant Asplund, and my voice and my pictures and videos of me, but it's my flipping DNA.
I mean, there's applications out there now that can take, I think it's 3 seconds of your accent and your words.
Yep.
And create, an avatar that sounds like you, talks like you, has the same mannerisms as you. I did try it with my accent. It wasn't very, very good, thankfully. I don't think they've reached Glasgow in Scotland yet, hopefully. It's a particular accent, but when it comes to, an American accent, a generic American accent, as I would put it, it's trivially easy to copy that now. And, that's your authentication challenge right there. Facial recognition, voice recognition, can be potentially used to bypass all these security measures that we've put in place.
Totally.
So that's really worrying to me. I mean, there's so much good that could be done with AI, but we know that there can be an equivalent, if not more, amount of bad done with it. And that's what I hope the companies are watching for. We're working with a couple of companies who, again, this is all new to everybody, but a couple of companies we're working with is privateai.com. We're using them for data obfuscation. And then we've partnered with a company called Robust Intelligence. I don't know if you remember them, but those were the folks who basically hacked NVIDIA's LLM within hours of it coming out. They got it to spew out information that it shouldn't have. And I connected with their CEO, Yaron Singer, and he was amazing and just said, hey, come chat with us, see what we can do, see what we can work on. And so we're taking a look at their offerings. And again, it's all new. Who's going to be here in a year? How much money am I going to invest in these companies? I mean, hopefully they'll be here. I do hope so. But there's so many out there offering much of the same thing. So how do you choose? Who do you choose with?
Yeah, it's funny. So one of the things that I've been doing when I have just a few minutes, because it's futile to try to sell anything and present a bunch of slides or anything. And so when I'm out, I like to end up providing some resources, some information my audience can actually go down a rabbit hole or two as it relates to AI. And one of them, I think I already had mentioned to you, maybe, was the video, The AI Dilemma. It's from the same people that I think created The Social Dilemma. And it's a fascinating video on YouTube. It's an hour, 7.5 minutes long. It's from the Center for Humane Technology. It is, man, I highly recommend it for everybody, because one of the things they do really well, and I'm a Gilligan, is what happened here recently with this whole shift to everything being language, and that impact of how everything then subsequently kind of became working together, so advancements were exponential. But it's also equally frightening. And I'll tell you, this is what bugs me. My whole life, and maybe I'm just old, but my whole life, if there's something after the equal sign, okay, you can back into the equation all the way and figure and see how you got there, right? There are outcomes that they're all fully explainable. But that's not the case in some of this AI stuff. It's, some of this generative AI is actually, the outcomes can't be explained. And this is actually spoken about in this video. That to me is concerning.
There's a really good series. I don't know if you've been watching it. My other half was binge watching them, and they've got Stanford University has a whole bunch of free lectures on YouTube, and they are amazing. Now, some of them are older. Some of them are, just from a few months ago, but it basically allows you to learn about AI and how things are layered upon layer of information. And it does somewhat take your stance of working it back from the equal sign, and it shows how things can be built up, but also how things like bias and misrepresentation can slip in, rubbish in, rubbish out, leading to what could be harmful products or skewed data. Right. And then that can result, in discriminatory practices or in some cases worse, the dissemination of false information. And that goes back to my initial point about CISOs having to understand their roles and responsibilities. I have to have a good understanding of what we as a company are doing with AI,
Right.
on top of my real job of being a CISO. And, we've actually taken 2 people full time, 2 engineers with my team, and their role is to be the AI gatekeepers. I mean, they're looking at what our developers are working on. They are trying to break what they're, the code that's been written. But that's 2 full-time people that we now have working on this, that were working on different things last year. So I'm wondering if people are going to be putting not a halt to, but maybe cutting back on some of their innovation while they work on this particular innovation. And is it going to work out or is it not? You're not going to double your staff and have half of them work on AI and half of them work on everything else that they were meant to work on. There's going to be cuts. And so I really hope that AI can be used to fill the gap. I'm just concerned that we're spending a lot of time on the latest shiny object.
Yeah.
And what are we actually going to get from it? Are we too early, or are we right on time? Are we looking at it at the right time? So that's always the balancing act in my head, is like security versus innovation. It's a really tricky tightrope to walk.
There's a website, Lena, you may know about. There's an AI for that. No apostrophe, no apostrophe, excuse me, of course, but it is. There's an AI for that. If you type that all out without an apostrophe, .com, it's amazing, because there's something near 10,000 now, or over 10,000 different AI that they've have on their website, with some 4,000 plus different jobs, essentially.
Yep.
And I mean, it's amazing. And I've actually found some stuff that's, wow, really, really amazing, to create blogs that are maybe just not any compelling, amazing thought, but maybe more just, reinforcing something about, the importance of positive thinking, for example.
Yeah.
Right? Amazing. There's a tool called SEO writing.ai. Another really amazing website. It's very cool. So you should check out. There's an AI for that.
I will. No, I think it's a really interesting time to be alive. I think, when you look at what AI could be used for, as I said, I think it could change the world. I just hope it changed the world for the better, rather than worse.
Well,
there's enough needed.
It's one of the reasons I always advocate people to watch this video, but I don't give too much away, because there are, no question, amazing, remarkable, truly life-changing things that AI is going to and can do. But there are consequences. And in the same way, the social dilemma kind of outlined and explained what happened when we went into this whole thing. Sure, there were positive things, but, things like body image issues and all that other stuff related to the pressures of social media that were unintended consequences. Well, the expectation is there are going to be equal unintended consequences with this, as they call it, second contact with AI.
Yeah, but I think on a positive note, if you, I don't know if you read the article in the MIT Technology Review just recently. I sign up for that because it's a really, really good website. But they're talking about, and this was just a few days ago, talking about Google DeepMind and how their new AI tool helped create more than 700 new materials. So this is solar cells, batteries, computer chips, and other things.
Wow.
That's what I mean. I think it could be used for good.
Totally.
Some of these things would have taken months, if not years. And
yeah.
these are being found overnight, because I guess they're finding that the AI infrastructure, which, I wouldn't know where to begin to understand it, but the black box that is AI infrastructure is able to make connections with things that human beings had never thought about. And that blew my mind. It's like, this is what we should be using it for, finding things to help other human beings, rather than, how to write the best ransomware email to send to people. It's like, really? That's what you want to use this tool set for? Come on.
Right. And I mean, look, fundamentally at a very simplistic way, it's no different than the invention of a gun. Hey, we're going to be able to feed ourselves now and, blah, right? But then it turns in that there's people that have other intentions. So, that's...
Then you shoot the neighbor who shot the deer that you wanted. Yeah.
Right.
There's always bad and good. But I think...
Yeah, but you're right.
Hopefully people will see the good in it, and continue to contribute to that.
Yeah. The comment you made about exciting time to be alive, I've been saying that now for 40 years, since I saw the Macintosh come out, and it was like, wow, this is an amazing time to be alive. That's what's so exciting and fun about this business, is no matter when you get into it. Yeah, no matter when you get in, you're getting in to the beginning of something, and it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be good for more people to have a seat at the table where, these policies around AI are being made, and luckily I'm getting to work with NIST and people like that on some of this stuff, but. With the advent of IBM and Meta standing up this working group, are they going to be in opposition to what OpenAI want to do? Or are there going to be 2 camps or 3 camps or,
Right.
I don't want it to end, we should be looking at this as a real opportunity and not being too caught up in the minutiae of, well, you need a policy for that. You said there's a website, there's an AI for that. I'm sure there's a website called There's a Policy for That.
Right.
And that can be the death of innovation, I think, is just having all these policies and security, which is why the day that when ChatGPT came out, I got together with our head counsel, Andrew Stevens, and said, we need a really simple memo, preferably written by engineers for engineers, in plain English that says what ChatGPT is, what we can use it for, and what we must not use it for. And that was it. That was the 3 paragraphs. And we sent that out. It was well received. People understood what they could and couldn't do. We then had an all hands and people spoke about it. We explained how we were going to deal with it as a company. And that's just allowed us, I think, to have more innovation, but also more open access to tool sets. As I said, we're working with procurement. They understand what people are asking for. My team knows the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to different tool sets. And so we think we've got a fairly robust system in place, but it's iterative. It's always changing depending on what's coming out. Obviously we're looking at things like AWS Q. They just come out with their chatbot. That it's interesting. It's interesting that all these companies are chucking stuff out the door. But I think we need to be a wee bit more pragmatic and take our time and look at what's available and then how we can use it instead of just picking up one shiny ball after another and be like, okay, now I've got a bunch of tiny things in my hands. What do I do with them?
Yeah, there's no doubt. And we are definitely in an era of, there are lots of shiny balls that are surfacing all the time right now. It's just kind of remarkable. And I wonder...
On a side note, I was just going to say on a side note, I can't wait till the movie comes out about the whole OpenAI thing with Sam Altman. I just watched it. I binged watching it. I binged watched the Uber story, which was good, and I really want to see the OpenAI story on Netflix.
So there's a movie called BlackBerry. Have you seen that one?
Okay. No, I'm about to get in a flight.
Look that one up. What a great one. And based on the story of BlackBerry, really funny, interesting, and I mean, we were there, right? We were in the industry, and so that's what makes it even more fun to watch. I think you'll really enjoy it.
I'm gonna. Yeah, I'm flying to San Fran on Thursday, so that'll be on my list. Yeah, I still remember the first time my boss came up to me and he showed me this wee box with some a wee keyboard on it.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I was like, what kind of idiot is going to walk about with that in their pocket? Who wants to get email at 2:00 in the morning? Yeah. And he's like, this is the future. And I'm thinking, this is why I'm not an entrepreneur, because I was like, that's a stupid idea.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, I still find the way Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone, because it was, BlackBerry was, called Crackberry, and there were people that were just emphatically crazy about it. I mean, the keyboard was like the IBM Selectric keyboard was amongst secretaries back in the 70s and 80s. I mean, that was just what it was. And then, but what Steve, what he so eloquently pointed out was, all this space is dedicated as opposed to being able to be used however you want, that real estate, right? Because fully half of the screen was not a screen, it was a keyboard. And he just, it was amazing how that changed the world and how fast BlackBerry went from BlackBerry to Noberry.
I remember, I'm showing my age here, but I remember years ago going to one of the first security conferences. It was a technology conference at that point because security was still too small, but it was in London, and I worked in London at the time. And I remember there was a tiny little Apple booth, and they had an Apple Newton on display, and they let me play with this Apple Newton. And I was blown away. I'm like, okay, this is the future. That everything else that I'd seen was just nothing compared to this. It was a big kludgy. I mean, it was a piece of technology that nobody really could use, but it looked so cool. You just wanted a reason to use it.
That's exactly what it was.
And I always thought they were 10 years ahead of their time, at least. To this day, I wonder what would have happened if they'd had the infrastructure in place then to support the Newton as they did when they released the iPhone. Would we be different? Who knows?
Yeah, there's no question. I think the timing's a big part of it. Have you ever seen the video? If not, look it up on YouTube. Knowledge Navigator. It's an Apple video. Oh, you gotta watch it. And it's from 87 maybe. Yeah, something like that. I can look it up. I'll find it for you if you can't find it. It's called Knowledge Navigator. So I think if you search Knowledge Navigator Apple, but it was Apple's vision. I mean, it was amazing because it was this professor who comes into work and he sits down at his desk and he opens up his computer, and it looks like a book that opens up, and there's a little picture of a guy that talks to him. But you can draw direct lines from that whole video to technologies we have today. The little voice, the little face is Siri. Right? I mean, maybe there's not a face, but it was Siri, and Siri would say, your schedule looks like this. Your mother called, blah, blah. I mean, really, really well done. Talking on the phone with another professor, collaborating about deforestation, and they're both looking at the screen. I mean, but you have to think about when they produced it.
Yeah, just all the things that we take for granted nowadays.
Yeah, and the way it was, and when it was put together, it was like, I don't know. Do you remember AT&T did these commercials narrated by Tom Selleck, I think, and it was, showed a person laying on the beach with a laptop. Imagine doing your email from the beach. you will. And that was kind of the campaign. It was the you will campaign. And it was a similar thing, right? Where they would present to you these use cases that you thought were really out of reach, but they were in fact right around the corner.
Well, it's like when I don't know if you're a Star Trek fan. I suppose you must be. Tech.
Yes.
But I always love, there's a great website, or there's a great article on slashgear.com that I was looking at recently, and they were talking about things that came, the influence of Star Trek on modern technology.
Right.
Things like the communicators, which is basically the iPhone, the tablets that they used to have, the medical officer always had a tablet. The voice-activated computers, that blew my mind. I remember seeing or listening to a voice-activated computer about 30 years ago in a lab in a university in Surrey, and I was just blown away. It was like Professor Falcon out of War Game.
Right.
And I remember them saying, "You're sworn to secrecy over this. You can't talk about this to anybody." And I'm like, but I need to be able to talk to somebody about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like 3D printing as well, the replicator that they used to have. So and the VR headsets, of course, with the holodeck. It's just, when you look at what Gene Roddenberry and the writers were thinking of 50, 60 years ago, however long ago it was, it's amazing. It's
science fiction, I would say, has often been a place where some amazing ideas, were first presented. How they actually manifest themselves and come out, they may not be exactly right, but the imagination of the science fiction writer, pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It's phenomenal. Yeah, it really is.
And so let's just take a few minutes here before I know you have to go, and let's put on our thinking caps, because you made a comment about the Newton, which I was actually at Apple when the Newton came out. I think it was 87, I believe, maybe 89, something like that. It was when John Scully was there.
Yeah.
But the infrastructure, there's the four legs of the infrastructure stool from my perspective: bandwidth, connectivity, compute, and storage, and all of them have become so commoditized, right? Yeah. It's remarkable. So, and I think you'll agree, if we went back to the very first, let's say the first 20 million and on, 85 and on, if we would have really kind of started building security with the thought of the infrastructure we have today, how would we build our security? It would probably be more around the data, not so much on the castle.
Yeah.
So all I guess that whole preamble is to say, so let's do a 180 and let's look forward. I mean, what's going to be happening in the next few years? Because it seems like there's a continuation of certainly miniaturization of compute, storage, bandwidth, and connectivity. It's faster and faster. It's more and more ubiquitous. Where are we going? Is Elon really on the right path with putting chips in my head?
It's funny you mention that. I just got a cochlear implant in June. I think that's maybe why I couldn't do your last talk, because I was out.
Oh, really?
Obviously, I kept it quiet because I didn't want people to know that I wasn't in the office. But I was out for about a month recovering from that. And one of the first things I did, I was going deaf on my left-hand side. And so that's why I got the cochlear implant. But one of the first things I did when I was deciding between the three implants that I could have had, there's three main companies in the world that do them. I wrote to each of their CEOs and said, I'm thinking about getting a cochlear implant. I work in cybersecurity. Has your device ever been hacked? And only one of the companies wrote back almost immediately, a company called MedL, and they're based out of Austria. And I said, I'm going to have this thing in my head. And I know it's not a pacemaker. I know I can't be killed if someone takes it over, but it can make me very uncomfortable. It could, in fact, cause some issues in my head.
Yeah.
And he went so far as to put me in touch with his head of product and his head of security, and I had a really good chat with them, and they discussed at great length. I signed an NDA how their systems work, and
fascinating.
That really, because obviously I was talking about Elon Musk and his brain chips, and I said, I know I'm not getting a brain chip, but I'm getting an ear chip.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to have a real awareness.
Boy, I mean, Lena, anytime we start to, isn't this the digital transformation? I mean, this is exactly what this is, right? And I think in every instance, security has absolutely got to be right at the top of mind. And kudos to you for thinking of that. I wonder how many people actually even have the forethought to think of that. But we should. People should. Because more is coming, right?
We should hold these companies accountable and say, if you're putting anything into a human body, can it be in any way attacked and make that human more vulnerable for having that thing in their head or their eye or their brain or whatever? And I was sadly shocked at the lack of information from the other two companies. I wouldn't name them, but they're not hard to find. And it kind of really worried me. And the fact that this Med-El company were so open and they understood, the security challenges around, which is essentially the Internet of Things, because it's a thing.
Sure it is.
They got it, and they, yes, I can attach the device to my Bluetooth on my phone and manage it that way, but I tend to stick just with the cabled version because it's more secure. And I've actually now been invited to go to their workshop and work with their product people and see how we can improve. Yeah, how we can improve it, and I'll be the guinea pig because I've got very good hearing on my right hand side, so it's just a really interesting way to look at technology, which I wouldn't have the chance to if I didn't go deaf. So you always look I always try to look on the bright side. But the advancement.
It's why I love you, Lena. I do. I think we have some similarities, not only in like kind of our tenure in this business and era and kind of the school of hard knocks and the other things we've talked about before. But, I am so big and such a believer in positive, that you got to just put that positive energy, no matter what, you got to figure out how to turn it into a positive because the clock's not stopping.
Yeah, you have to.
And it's just don't hold yourself hostage to that kind of thinking, right? It's remarkable.
I was in a CISO circle this morning, and it's almost like therapy for CISOs because it's just basically a bitching session for an hour.
Totally.
When we talk about, the ridiculous things that are happening, and they get it because they're in the same world. And, the things that we were talking about of things in the future were things like quantum computing. We've got all these passwords, we've got all these systems in place today. What happens when they are eventually broken? All your backups that are encrypted. And I think it's things, that's things that we think about as a company seriously. So we've obviously got our client-side field level encryption, but it's encryption. It's on an algorithm that I'm sure quantum computers are, as we speak, trying to churn their way through and break them.
Yeah.
And so, how do you get ahead of that unless you're a company like IBM with, bottomless pits of money when it comes to quantum computing? And so just keeping an eye on it, making sure you're up to date with what's happening. We thankfully have a whole team of cryptographers here who are just fabulous. And they, Ken White is our senior cryptographer here, and he is a genius. I mean, I don't use that word lightly, an absolute genius. And, he can tell you what we should worry about and what we shouldn't worry about from a company standpoint, and almost be that calming effect when people are running about like headless chickens. Like, why are we doing this if quantum's going to break everything? It's like, well, just hold your horses a wee minute. This is what it can and can't do. Don't worry too much just now, but be prepared for the future, which is what I think companies should be doing.
Yeah, I agree. I have to mention this. I just saw, I wish I could pronounce his name, but I can't. It's an Indian name that's, really long. He's a guru, but I love this little snippet because he said, all our lives we're taught to work hard, work harder, work harder. And then we complain about how hard work is. And he says, we should strive to work joyful. To have joyful work, to be joyful. And, that just really hit me so well. I thought it's so true. I thought it was really good. So I thought it was a good way of
I think
kind of, thinking.
It is, because if you don't think positive, you're just going to get into this pit of despair. And then you'll be on ChatGPT one day saying, how can I get out of this pit of despair?
That's right. And hope you get the right answer.
Oh, I know. As long as it's not got too much manipulation and misinformation, we'll be okay. But I think, just to end on a happy note, hopefully, I genuinely think that AI is going to bring forth changes in medicine and hopefully mental health, very close to my heart.
Yeah.
I just hope it's used for the right reasons. And I do think a lot of companies are taking this very seriously. They're understanding that it is rubbish in, rubbish out. There has to be a human component. The computers are not going to take over the entire world. Some jobs will be replaced, but maybe the people who are being replaced in those jobs can do something that might be more interesting rather than data entry or looking up a legal word or something like that. That's the stance that we're taking as a company. We're not looking to get rid of people and replace them with AI. We're looking to enhance what people are doing and make them more innovative and productive with AI. Giving them a chance to use it. I think that's very important, because if you've got that sword of Damocles of AI hanging over your head, is my job going to go away tomorrow? You're not going to be productive. You're not going to be interested, and you're certainly not going to learn about what could ostensibly give you a new career.
Yeah, so, no doubt.
I think
no doubt. In fact, other than that video, Lena, the actual tools, the how to do presentations, and the other ones, the blog writing and others, that website, that was all from an internal course that we had at Checkpoint, which I thought was awesome. That, they, wasn't open to the entire company, and it was specifically to kind of say, hey, we encourage you to use this. Use it responsibly, use it intelligently, but use it. It can really be game changing.
Yeah, we've got a little chat bot now in our Slack channel, and we can say, hey, at GPT, catch me up. And if there's 100-line Slack that you just cannot be arsed reading, it will give you the TLDR for it.
Nice.
Sometimes it gets it right. Sometimes it's quite funny. But for people who are joining a new channel and they're just like, okay, what's the salient points here? It's like, catch me up just works. Right. It works very well 9 out of 10 times. And, the 10th time is just usually a source of amusement. So it's just, gives us something to laugh at.
Yeah, that's right. And, it is going to be there every day, 365 days, 24 hours a day. So there's that side of what it offers too. I think it's exciting times we're in.
Exciting, but also terrifying in equal measures, I think. You just have to balance it.
Yeah, I totally agree. But thank you so very, very much. It's great to see you and speak with you. I always love it. I feel like I'm talking to a friend. I really do. I appreciate you so much. So thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Global Chief Information Security Officer for MongoDB, Lena Smart. What a great, fun discussion. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And listen, subscribe, share, tell your friends. And we'll see you back here on the next episode of Talking Cloud. Thanks so very much.